TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, the Islamist Hamas brutally murders hostages before IDF forces extract 6 bodies dead after 330 days of captivity. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pledges to settle accounts with Hamas, including all of its leadership. Tens of thousands of Israelis flood the streets of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, calling on the government to bring about a deal that would bring the hostages back as soon as possible. The abhorrent Islamist Hamas organization managed to plague Israel with sorrow, fury, and confusion as the Palestinian terror group murdered in cold blood 6 hostages that shortly before IDF forces entered a subterranean hideout in which they located and then extracted the respective bodies who've been held captive by Hamas in brutal conditions for a total of 330 days.
According to our initial assessment, they were brutally murdered by Hamas terrorists shortly before we reached them. They were abducted alive on the morning of October 7th by the Hamas terror organization. Their bodies were found during combat in Rafah in an underground tunnel, approximately 1 kilometer from the tunnel from which we rescued Farhan al-Qadi a few days ago. Since Farhan's identification, the forces have been instructed to act with extra caution, even more so than usual, understanding that there might be additional hostages in the area. We did not have information on the exact location of the hostages. Combat was ongoing above ground, and the troops eliminated terrorists even during the battles there yesterday. The troops are still operating in the field at this time.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responded to the cold-blooded murder of the 6 hostages, including a dual American-Israeli citizen, as well as another dual Russian-Israeli national.
This is a difficult day for us. Together with all citizens of Israel, I was outraged to the depths of my soul by the horrific, cold-blooded murder of 6 of our hostages, Carmel Gat, Eden Yerushalmi, Hirsch Goldberg-Polin, Alexander Lobanov, Almik Sarusi, and Master Sergeant Ori Danino. May GD avenge them. Together with the entire nation, my wife and I share in the family's deep mourning.
Netanyahu went on to commend the Israeli forces who extracted the bodies from Hamas's subterranean hideout, while further pledging that the Islamist terror group will pay the price for its heinous crimes. Netanyahu, who made his televised statement yesterday, further highlighted to Israeli citizens that the State of Israel faces Iran's terror arms on multiple fronts, including in the West Bank district of Judea, where 3 police officers were shot dead by an armed Palestinian terrorist as they were traveling to their base near the town of Hebron.
Citizens of Israel, we are fighting on all fronts against a brutal enemy who wants to murder us all. Only this morning, it murdered 3 police officers in Hebron. My wife and I send heartfelt condolences to their families. We saw the inconceivable brutality of the Hamas murderers on October 7th, and we have seen it again in the tunnels under Rafah. The fact that Hamas is continuing to perpetrate atrocities like those it carried out on October 7th requires us to do everything so that it will be unable to perpetrate these atrocities again.
One of the 3 policemen who was laid to rest following yesterday's deadly attack, 61-year-old Roni Shakuri, was the father of Mol Shakuri, a police officer who was killed during the abhorrent Hamas onslaught of October 7th of last year.
On the Black Saturday of October 7th, Roni lost his heroic daughter, Moore, may her memory be blessed, who fell in the heroic battles against abhorrent Hamas terrorists at the Steret precinct. Moore, may her memory be blessed, served as a police patrolwoman at Steret precinct. She fell after a heroic battle against Hamas terrorists on the rooftop of the police station. Despite this tragedy, loss, and deeply felt sorrow, Roni continues to serve with a significant sense of mission. This morning, on his way to work with two of his friends, Senior NCO Hodesh Branch and Chief Inspector Arik Ben Eliyahu, the three were shot by abhorrent terrorists. Roni was evaluated to hospital in critical condition, and his death was proclaimed shortly thereafter.
It is important to note that the IDF, in close cooperation with the ISA or Shin Bet, located and subsequently eliminated the terrorist responsible for the shooting attack that claimed the lives of the three police officers earlier in the day. The terrorist was identified as Mohannad al-Assoud, a 31-year-old from the Palestinian village of Edna, a member of Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas's Fatah faction, who formerly served in the Palestinian Presidential Guard of the Palestinian National Security Forces. Reverting to Netanyahu's address, in which he also insisted that Jerusalem was doing everything to retrieve the hostages from Hamas captivity.
Our efforts to free our hostages are continuing constantly. Since December, Hamas has refused to hold genuine negotiations. 3 months ago, on May 27th, Israel agreed to a hostage release deal with full backing from the U.S. Hamas refused. Even after the U.S. updated the deal framework on August 16th, we agreed, and Hamas again refused. In recent days, as Israel has been holding intensive negotiations with the mediator in a supreme effort to reach a deal, Hamas is continuing to steadfastly refuse all proposals. Even worse, at the exact same time, it murdered 6 of our hostages. Whoever murders hostages does not want a deal. For our part, we will not relent. The government of Israel is committed, and I am personally committed, to continue striving toward a deal that will return all of our hostages and ensure our security and our existence.
Despite extensive efforts to reach a hostage release outline in exchange for Israeli concessions, senior intelligence officials have told TV7 that Hamas was unlikely to budge from its hardline position since it identifies a growing rift within Israeli society that may ratchet up pressures and by doing so also force Netanyahu's hand to succumb to the terror group's demands, particularly regarding the presence of the IDF in the strategic Philadelphia corridor, which serves Hamas as the sole lifeline to rearm and refresh its heavily battered ranks. In an attempt to remove the option of withdrawal, Jerusalem's Security Cabinet on Friday approved operational maps that maintain a military presence in the strategic corridor, rendering Hamas's demands moot. Nevertheless, after Hamas murdered the 6 hostages as IDF forces were closing in on the subterranean hideout, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant released a statement urging Prime Minister Netanyahu to reverse the decree, warning that, well, quote, "It is too late for the hostages who were murdered in cold blood. We must bring back the hostages that are still being held by Hamas." In response, Netanyahu stressed to his defense minister that while he is no longer eager to rescue all of the hostages from Hamas captivity, reneging on the cabinet's crucial decision to maintain a military presence along the Philadelphia corridor would only embolden Hamas to murder additional hostages for the purpose of achieving their objectives at the expense of Israel's national security interests. And while Netanyahu and Gallant are seemingly not on the same page, yesterday Israel's major labor union sought to grant the position of Jerusalem's top defense official tailwind by announcing a general strike.
Right now, I am calling for a general, total strike. Without a time limit? For now, it'll be tomorrow. We'll see where things go. It is not a simple matter to shut down the economy, and you know how much responsibility I have shown in the last 11 months. No more. I call on the people of Israel to take to the streets this evening, tomorrow, leave the workplaces. I call on all economic organizations in the state of Israel, everyone, to join the strike. Tomorrow we must shout the cry of our beloved country. We must raise the cry of our hostages, our displaced, our dead. The state of Israel must be returned to routine.
Despite his announcement, the general strike today was relatively limited, with the majority of businesses across the country maintaining business as usual. Nevertheless, at Ben Gurion International Airport, disruptions were reported.
Unfortunately, we found out that our flight to Greece was postponed. Because of the strike there is in Israel, because of the kidnapped people who are held by the Hamas in Gaza. I feel that I support this strike because really all of the people in Israel want our friends and brothers to come back from Gaza and be free.
Meanwhile, tens of thousands of Israelis flooded the streets of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem to express their sorrow and frustrations and called upon the government to do everything necessary to return the hostages home as soon as possible. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. Please pray for the peace of Jerusalem and the redemption of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you a Shavua Mevorach. God willing, we'll see you during our upcoming TV7 Israel updates. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.